I'm curious about, well, I guess a bunch of different things, but one of the things you said in the first book was that we ultimately need ending homelessness means entirely reevaluating our theological relationship to housing, property, and the land. And
Yeah,
that I think uh, the new one I saw a quote on Instagram that there is conversation about physical and spiritual repercussions with what is happening within, I guess, homelessness and the conversations around that.
yeah.
Where I'm curious because you, in the first book at least, you were working in a secular organization when you started writing. Where, what is this interplay between what is happening in, I guess, maybe a way a Christian should be thinking, or your hope for how a Christian is thinking about this, and then the way that uh, what is actually being done, services provided are actually being given out. There are too many questions here, so let's maybe just start with
Yeah,
the
yeah,
theologically how a Christian you would hope is thinking about homelessness and where you would hope to direct their focus or their pursuit of whatever you would like them to do.
sure. Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think that ultimately, and there's a big portion of this in the new book, that when I think of the spirituality of home, the spirituality of homelessness, I don't necessarily mean it religiously, right? That like, and I this comes up in the first book too, that when you talk about spirituality, you're talking about things like hope, like belonging, um, like presence, like safety. Safety has physical components, but also spiritual components, right? I don't think that Christianity or any religion has a monopoly on those experiences. Those are just deeply human experiences that religion has language for, and when it's at its best, it's putting a priority on those things that so many other institutions do not prioritize, right? And so, but it can be misunderstood as well, right? That the most important thing is religious adherence to a particular set of beliefs, and that's where I think historically churches and Christian ministries to the poor and unhoused have really conflated spirituality with conversion, right? And this is why there's a lot in this new book about gospel rescue missions and their historical approach that we are primarily an evangelistic endeavor toward the poor and unhoused, and we provide services, but there's this sort of undercurrent of transaction and expectation that these services are resulting in a conversion or at least preceded by listening to our sermons and participating in our Bible studies that I dissect in the book. But um, to me, that's just not even the right understanding of the spiritual needs of people who experience homelessness. Um, and so, in one sense, I would direct churches away from that understanding of spirituality to also understand that homelessness has to do with a very physical, real, material lack of housing and resources to maintain housing. But then I would like them to then come back around full circle to the spirituality piece too, but a healthier understanding of spirituality that can talk about things like hope, belonging, safety, because I do think that a lot of times in our secular responses to homelessness, we miss out on that. You know, we put people in housing, but we don't care much about their sense of community in where they live. We'll take people who have found a sort of safe community within a shelter or within an encampment, and we'll take them from that and put them in an apartment, which on the tangible material side is an improvement of their situation, but maybe experience and maybe really a a worse situation for their soul, for their spirituality, for their sense of belonging, community. And we see a lot of people really struggle when they move in, because they've lost all of that for the sake of the material, and there isn't a lot um, of funding to pay attention to that. I wouldn't even say that it's nonprofits' fault that they don't care about that, although some certainly don't. But who's offering the grant, right, to really stay with people and to help build community in low income apartment buildings, right? And so to me, that's the opportunity for churches to come alongside after they've recognized that housing and material needs are what ends homelessness, to then come back around alongside for the community and the spiritual soul flourishing types of things that I think churches are really built to do well.